The rain wasn't just falling, it was pouring as if the sky itself was grieving. On a bustling New York sidewalk, people hurried by, their umbrellas a sea of black shields, none of them noticing the tiny girl huddled beneath the bakery window. She was soaked to the bone, trembling, her small hands wrapped around an empty paper cup. "Do you have any expired cake?" she asked softly, her voice swallowed by the storm. Most didn't hear her. But one person did. A man who seemed to own the world and yet, at that moment, realized he might truly have nothing. This is the story of how a billionaire's life was transformed by a child who only wanted a slice of old cake. Ethan Cole was a name etched in headlines Forbes Man of the Year 3 times over. He had it all: skyscrapers that touched the clouds, tech empires that shaped the future, and resorts that redefined luxury. By every measure of wealth, he was a king. But behind the tailored suits and the ever-present security detail, there was a void his billions couldn't fill. His days were a blur of cold negotiations and ruthless boardroom battles. His nights were silent, vast, and empty. That evening, he sat in the back of his sleek black Rolls-Royce, seething from a deal that had just fallen apart. The city lights flickered across the rain-drenched pavement like shattered stars, mirroring the fragmentation in his own life. As the car rolled past a small, warm-looking bakery, its windows glowing with a soft, inviting yellow, he saw her. A frail girl, no older than 8, sitting cross-legged on the cold ground, swallowed up in an oversized, tattered hoodie. Her eyes were fixed on a stale cake inside, abandoned in a corner of the display case. Something inside Ethan shifted. A gear that had been rusted shut for years suddenly clicked into place. "Stop the car," he said, his voice firm. His driver hesitated, glancing at the neighborhood. "Sir, this area. Stop the car." He stepped out into the downpour, the cold rain soaking his designer shoes in an instant, but he barely noticed. The girl looked up, startled, her eyes a worn-out gray. They weren't empty, but exhausted, carrying a wisdom far too heavy for her years. "Hey," Ethan said gently, crouching down to her level. "Are you all right?" She immediately lowered her gaze, ashamed. "I'm sorry, sir. I wasn't begging. I just asked if they had any expired cake. I haven't eaten since yesterday." Her voice cracked on the last word, and the sound pierced Ethan's armor of indifference. He was a man used to people asking him for investments, partnerships, favors, all forms of taking. Yet here was a child asking for something discarded. Something no one else wanted. Just then, the bakery owner stepped out, a scowl on his face. "She's here every night. I told her we don't give away free food. She should go to a shelter." Ethan's jaw tightened. He instinctively reached for his wallet, ready to throw money at the problem like he always did. But he paused. This moment felt different. It wasn't about money. It was about something real, something human. "What's your name?" he asked the girl softly. "Layla," she whispered, then corrected herself. "Laya Grace." "Do you have anyone? Family?" he asked. She hesitated, her small frame shrinking even more. I did. My mom, she baked cakes like that one." She gestured toward the window. "She passed away 2 months ago. I ran away from foster care. They were mean. I just wanted to find her bakery." She stared through the glass, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. "She used to say, there's always sweetness left, even in what's expired." Her words hit Ethan with the force of a revelation. Expired, forgotten, just like her. He felt a profound connection to that thought. Without another word, he walked into the bakery. The owner watched, stunned, as Ethan pointed to the stale cake. "I'll take that," he said. "It's for her." Back under the awning, shielded from the worst of the rain, they sat together. Ethan and Laya Grace, a billionaire and a runaway, breaking off pieces of the dry pastry with their hands. For Laya, each bite was a blessing, her small fingers clinging to every crumb. And when she looked up at him and smiled, just once, a fleeting, genuine smile, it broke something open in Ethan's guarded heart. He didn't know it yet, but that night wasn't just an encounter. It was the beginning of a new story. Their story. The next day, Ethan tried to return to his life. Boardrooms, conference calls, stock tickers, the usual noise. But he couldn't focus. Laya's small voice, her trembling hands, that desperate gaze, They haunted him. He went back to the bakery that evening. She wasn't there. A raw, unexplainable panic rushed through him. He told himself it wasn't his problem, that he had done enough. But his heart insisted otherwise. He searched for hours, finally finding her under a bridge, wrapped in a damp blanket, asleep and shivering. He knelt beside her. When her eyes fluttered open, fear flashed across her face. "Did I do something wrong?" she whispered. "No," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You did everything right. I can't walk away." He brought her to his penthouse. A glittering palace in the sky, a world away from the cold streets she knew. She looked around in quiet awe at the marble floors. The towering ceilings, the entire city sparkling beneath her feet. But instead of excitement, she whispered, "It's too big." "I don't belong here." Ethan gave a small, sad smile. "Neither do I, sometimes." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of change. Ethan arranged for therapy, legal guardianship, and enrollment in a good school. But the most profound transformation was happening within him. Breakfasts with Laya replaced boardrooms. He started skipping meetings for school pickups. He began visiting shelters, not just writing checks, but listening to stories and funding new programs with a deep personal investment. The press called it a billionaire's redemption arc. But for Ethan, it wasn't about redemption. It was about rediscovery, the rediscovery of love, of purpose, of himself. One evening, Laya gave him a small, carefully wrapped box. Inside was a tarnished metal charm, part of an old cake mold. "I found it in my mom's old things," she said, her eyes shining. "You helped me see that even old things can make something new." Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. He had spent his life acquiring new, shiny objects, but this small, worn piece of metal was the most valuable thing he had ever been given. "You didn't just find the sweetness in what's expired, Laya," he said. "You brought the sweetness back to me." Years later, the bakery on that corner reopened. It was restored, renovated, and renamed Laya Grace. Every night, just before closing, it gave out free cake to any child who needed it. Above the door, a simple sign was etched into the wood. "There's always sweetness left, even in what's expired." Every time Ethan saw a child's face light up with a slice of cake in their hand, he remembered that rainy night. The night a hungry girl asked for a piece of expired cake, and in doing so, helped a lonely billionaire find a heart he didn't know he still had. Sometimes the richest souls are found in empty hands. And sometimes the poorest among us are those who have forgotten how to love. Kindness costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. It can, and it will, change everything. Thank you for watching.